your entire life. The world has been feeding you a lie. One path, one passion, one career. Stick to it, master it, die doing it. That's the formula they sold you. But let's be honest for a second. If I looked at your browser history right now, I'd find chaos. 3 weeks ago, you were deep into learning Python. Last week, you burned through 4 books on behavioral psychology. And today, you're watching tutorials on how to start a coffee roasting business. Tomorrow? Who knows? Maybe astrophysics, maybe woodworking, maybe both. And every single time you jump to something new, you hear the same chorus. From your parents, your teachers, your boss, even from that voice inside your own skull. You never finish anything. You're all over the place. Jack of all trades, master of none. That last one stings, doesn't it? They throw it at you like a diagnosis, like a life sentence. You've spent years believing something is fundamentally wrong with you. You've watched other people pick one thing, grind at it every day without getting bored, and you've wondered why you can't just be normal. Why can't you just sit still and specialize like everyone else? Here's what nobody ever told you. You've been judging yourself using the wrong rule book entirely. What if the thing you've been calling a flaw, your so-called lack of focus, your inability to commit, is actually the neurological fingerprint of a mind that was built differently on purpose? Not broken, not lazy, not immature. Wired for something the modern world desperately needs but refuses to reward on the surface. Today, I'm going to walk you through 10 daily habits that make you feel like an outsider. Then habits that your friends find weird, that your family doesn't understand, and that society keeps punishing you for. But here's the twist. Neuroscience, evolutionary biology, and psychology all agree that these same habits are the defining traits of what researchers call a polymathic brain. Stay until number 1 because I'm going to reveal the clinical explanation behind why your nervous system literally shuts down when you're forced into routine. It will change the way you see yourself permanently. Let's get into it. Number 10, the Graveyard of Hobbies. Open your closet right now. Go ahead, picture it. What's in there? A guitar you played obsessively for 6 weeks, a set of oil paints still in the plastic, an Arduino kit with half a project soldered together, language textbooks in 3 different languages, all bookmarked somewhere around chapter 4. People in your life love to point at this collection and laugh. There's another one of your phases. How much money did you waste on that? And you feel it, that sharp sting of shame. Because from the outside, it looks like a museum of failure. But here's what cognitive science actually says about this graveyard. Every single one of those abandoned hobbies left a deposit in your brain. Not a physical object collecting dust, but a neural pathway. A new way of processing information. A mental tool you didn't even know you were building. Dr. Robert Root Bernstein, a MacArthur Fellow who has spent decades studying creative genius, found that Nobel Prize winners are dramatically more likely than average scientists to have serious hobbies outside their field. So we're talking about physicists who paint, chemists who compose music, biologists who write poetry. Their so-called distractions weren't distractions at all. Those hobbies were feeding their primary breakthroughs. Your graveyard of hobbies isn't a junkyard, it's a parts warehouse. And the machine you're building with those parts, you just can't see the blueprint yet. But you will. Number 9, the strategic abandonment at 80%. This one drives you insane, and I know it because I've lived it. You discover something new. Photography, chess, a programming language, cooking. Whatever it is, you go all in. You don't just dabble. You become consumed. You watch every tutorial, read every book, practice for hours while everyone around you sleeps. And then, just when you're getting genuinely good, something bizarre happens. The fire goes out. Completely. One day you wake up and you couldn't care less about the thing that dominated your brain for the last 3 months. So you call yourself a quitter. You assume it's weakness. You think you lack grit. Wrong. What's actually happening has a name. In psychology, it's called hedonic adaptation, combined with what motivation researchers describe as the mastery threshold effect. Your brain is not wired to become the world's foremost expert in one thing. Your brain is wired to decode systems, to reverse engineer how things work. When you hit roughly 80% comprehension of a skill, when you understand its structure, its logic, its deep patterns, the intellectual challenge evaporates. And with it, so does your dopamine response. There's no more mystery, no more puzzle to solve. Your brain literally cannot generate the neurochemical reward it needs to stay engaged because the problem is already solved in your mind. You're not quitting, you're completing your mission. The mission was never to become a master. It was to understand the machine. And once you do, your brain graduates from that subject and begins scanning the horizon for the next system to crack. This is not a bug. This is your operating system working exactly as designed. Number 8, you thrive in chaos and die in routine. Researcher David Epstein, author of Range, Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World, draws a critical distinction between what he calls kind learning environments and wicked learning environments. A kind environment is like golf. The rules are clear, the course doesn't change, feedback is immediate, and success comes from repeating the exact same motion 10,000 times. Specialists are built for kind environments. They're comfortable there. They excel. But you? Golf would destroy you. If someone puts you in a cubicle doing the same spreadsheet every day for 5 years, a part of you literally starts to wither. You feel it physically. The restlessness in your legs, the fog in your brain, the creeping existential dread of another identical Tuesday. Now put yourself in a wicked environment, a startup on the verge of collapse, a crisis at work where nobody knows what to do, a project that requires you to learn 3 new skills by Friday. Suddenly you're alive. Your eyes are sharp. Your thinking is clear. You're connecting dots that nobody else in the room can even see. This isn't random. Ooh, the polymathic brain evolved to be the Swiss Army knife of the tribe. When the environment was stable, the specialists did their thing. But when everything went sideways, when the river changed course, when a new predator appeared, when the old food sources disappeared, the generalist was the one who said, "Wait, I know something about this." You are the emergency responder of intellectual life. Chaos is your natural habitat. Stop apologizing for not thriving in a cage. Number 7, the paralysis of choosing one path. You know that feeling when someone asks, "So what do you want to do with your life?" and your chest tightens? That's not indecision. That's a legitimate psychological response. For you, choosing one career feels like a death sentence for every other version of yourself. It's not that you can't decide. So it's that choosing one path means killing 20 others that feel equally real, equally important, equally you. Emily Wapnick, who coined the term multipotentialite, explains it like this. Society worships what she calls the I-shaped person, someone who goes deep into a single vertical discipline, but your mind is shaped like the letter M. You need 2 or 3 deep pillars of knowledge connected by a wide horizontal bar of curiosity that spans across fields. The thought of spending 40 years doing one thing doesn't just bore you. It gives you what I'd call mental claustrophobia. Your nature demands border crossing. You need to move between disciplines the way other people need to breathe. And here's the part they never tell you. The world's most valuable people are increasingly not the deepest experts. They're the ones who can operate at the intersections, The biologist who understands design, the engineer who understands human behavior, the artist who understands data. That's you. That's your shape. Stop trying to flatten yourself into a line. Number 6, the boring job as a cognitive shield. Every productivity influencer on the internet screams the same thing. Follow your passion. Monetize what you love. Your dream job is waiting. And you've tried. Maybe you turned a hobby into a side hustle. Maybe you got the exciting creative job. And something terrible happened. The thing you loved became the thing you had to do. The passion became an obligation. And slowly, the joy drained out of it, like water from a cracked glass. So you did something that seems counterintuitive, maybe even shameful. You took a boring job, a stable 9 to 5 that doesn't ask too much of your brain. Something predictable, something safe, something that your ambitious friends look down on. But what you instinctively understood, and what they don't, is that you were protecting your most valuable asset, your cognitive freedom. This strategy has a name in psychology. It's called the day job model, and it has an extremely impressive track record. Albert Einstein worked as a patent clerk, reviewing technical documents in a quiet office while his mind was free to imagine the nature of space and time. That boring, repetitive job was the cocoon that protected his creative energy. Philip Glass, one of the greatest composers of the 20th century, worked as a plumber and taxi driver well into his 40s, long after he was already composing masterpieces. Kurt Vonnegut ran a car dealership, while William Faulkner worked at a power plant. Your boring job isn't a failure. It's a fortress. It pays the bills while keeping your intellectual gunpowder dry for the things that actually set your soul on fire. Don't let anyone shame you for that strategy. It's genius disguised as mediocrity. Number 5, the compulsive archive of obsessions. Let me guess, your browser has somewhere between 40 and 200 tabs open right now, and they make absolutely no sense together. One tab is a deep dive into the fall of the Roman Empire. Another is a YouTube video on small engine repair. A third is a research paper on mycorrhizal networks in forests. And the fourth is a recipe for Sichuan dumplings. You also have a notes app that looks like a conspiracy theorist's wall, highlighted PDFs, saved Reddit threads, bookmarked articles you swear you'll read later, and books stacked on your nightstand covering 6 completely unrelated subjects. From the outside, this looks like digital hoarding, like a mind that can't organize itself. But from the inside, you know exactly what this is. You're building an archive, a personal library of seemingly disconnected knowledge that you instinctively know will connect someday. And neuroscience backs you up. What you're doing is called associative indexing. Your brain doesn't store information in neat separate folders. It stores it in a web where each piece of knowledge is connected to dozens of others by invisible threads. The more diverse your inputs, the richer and more creative your outputs become. Steve Jobs famously said that creativity is just connecting things. But he left out the important part. You can't connect things you've never collected. Your compulsive archiving isn't a disorder. It's your brain stockpiling ammunition for future breakthroughs you can't even predict yet. Number 4, the superpower of far transfer. Here's something that genuinely unsettles the people around you. You can learn things unreasonably fast. Not everything, but certain things. Someone shows you a new concept, a new system, a new tool, and within days, you're operating at a level that took other people months to reach. They call you gifted, or they call you a fraud, or they just stare, confused, because it doesn't seem fair. But there's nothing magical about it. Cognitive scientists call this phenomenon far transfer, and it's one of the most powerful and rarest abilities in human cognition. Yet far transfer is the ability to take the deep structure of knowledge from one domain and apply it to a completely different one. Most people can do near transfer easily. If you can drive a sedan, you can drive an SUV. That's the same domain. But far transfer, taking musical theory and using its patterns to understand advanced mathematics, using your knowledge of ecology to restructure a sales organization, that's a different beast entirely. And here's why you can do it. That Graveyard of Hobbies from number 10. Every abandoned pursuit left behind a structural framework in your brain. You don't learn from zero. You learn from a web of existing frameworks. When you encounter something new, your brain instantly pattern matches it against everything you've ever studied, and it finds shortcuts that pure specialists, and who have only one framework to reference, simply cannot see. This is your unfair advantage. Specialists go deep but narrow. You go wide and interconnected. And in a world of increasingly complex, cross-disciplinary problems, your brain architecture isn't a handicap. It's exactly what the moment demands. Number 3, the human translator between specialists. You've been in this meeting. Two experts are talking past each other. The engineer is drowning in technical jargon. The designer is speaking in abstractions. The marketing person is talking about feelings. And nobody is communicating. The project is stalling because everyone is brilliant in their own silo and completely blind outside of it. Then you speak up. You take the engineer's point, strip away the jargon, reframe it in language the designer understands, then connect it to the marketing concern. Suddenly the room clicks. People nod. The project moves forward. This happens because of what researchers call combinatorial thinking, the ability to hold multiple frameworks in your mind simultaneously and translate between them in real time. Specialists develop what psychologists call the curse of expertise. The deeper you go into a field, the harder it becomes to communicate outside of it. Your vocabulary becomes so specialized, your assumptions so ingrained, that you literally cannot explain your work to someone in the next department. You don't have this problem because you've spent time in multiple territories. You speak multiple intellectual languages. You're the diplomat, the interpreter, the bridge, And here's the dirty secret of every successful organization. The bridges are more valuable than the pillars. Any company can hire a deep expert. What they can't easily find is the person who makes all the experts work together. That person is almost always a polymath. Number 2, generalist impostor syndrome. This is the quiet torture that nobody talks about. Your friends come to you for advice on everything: relationships, career moves, technology, health, finances. They treat you like a walking encyclopedia. They genuinely believe you know everything about everything. And inside, you feel like the biggest fraud on the planet because you don't measure yourself against your friends. You measure yourself against the absolute best in every single field you've touched. You know photography, but you're not Annie Leibovitz. So you say you don't really know photography, you understand code, but you're not a senior engineer at Google, so you say you can't really program. You write well, but you haven't published a novel, so you say you're not a real writer. This is a devastating cognitive distortion, and it affects polymaths more than almost anyone else. Because you have visibility into so many fields, you have an infinite number of experts to compare yourself against. And since you'll never be the best in any one field, you conclude that you're not good enough at anything. But here's the truth that the specialist-obsessed world doesn't want you to understand. Your value was never meant to come from depth in a single area. Your value comes from your panoramic knowledge, your ability to see the whole board while everyone else is staring at one square. Shaq's a chess grandmaster doesn't need to be the world's best at opening theory or endgame technique individually. They need to see the whole game. That's you. Stop comparing yourself to the queen when you're the entire board. Number 1, the lie of laziness. This is the one that matters most. And I need you to really hear this. For years, maybe decades, You've carried a belief about yourself that has poisoned everything. You believe you're lazy, undisciplined, immature, a failure, because you cannot, no matter how hard you try, force yourself to focus on one thing for months or years the way everyone tells you to. You've tried every productivity system, every planner, every app, every morning routine, and they all work for about 2 weeks before you feel that familiar restlessness creeping back in, that physical, almost painful boredom, or the desperate need for something new just to feel alive. So you conclude what everyone has been telling you. You lack discipline. You lack willpower. Something is broken inside you. But modern neuroscience and psychiatry are finally catching up to what you've always felt in your bones. That relentless need for novelty, that inability to sustain interest in routine, that feeling of your nervous system shutting down when forced into repetition, these aren't character flaws. For many people with this profile, what's actually happening is a dopaminergic system that operates under completely different rules. Research into ADHD, high sensitivity, and what psychologists call sensation-seeking trait has revealed that certain brains require significantly higher levels of novelty and stimulation to produce baseline dopamine levels. Your brain isn't lazy, it's starving. It's starving for the neurochemical fuel that other people generate effortlessly from routine tasks. When a specialist sits down to do the same work every day, their brain says, good, predictable, safe. Here's your dopamine. When your brain sits down to do the same work every day, it says, we've already solved this. There's nothing new here. No dopamine for you. It's not a matter of wanting to focus and choosing not to. It's that the neurochemical machinery that makes sustained focus possible is literally not firing for you in that context. You are fighting your own biology every single day. And the fact that you've gotten this far isn't evidence of laziness. It's evidence of extraordinary resilience. If hearing this feels like someone just turned on a light in a room where you've been stumbling in the dark for years, I want you to sit with that for a moment. Breathe, because the most important thing you can do right now is stop treating yourself like a broken specialist and start recognizing yourself as what you actually are. A fully operational polymath living in a world that was designed for specialists. Your mind was never meant for the predictable. It was built to connect worlds that other people can't even see exist. The musician who thinks like an engineer, the coder who writes like a poet, the business mind that understands biology. That cross-pollination of ideas, that's not confusion. That's innovation waiting to happen. Recognizing that you have a polymathic brain is the first step toward forgiving yourself, releasing the guilt, and finally using your enormous curiosity as the superpower it was always meant to be. If this changed something for you today, drop a comment telling me your strangest combination of interests or hobbies. I want to see the beautiful chaos. And share this with that person in your life who's always jumping from one thing to another and beating themselves up for it. They need to hear that their mind isn't broken. It's extraordinary. One last thing, this video is purely informational and meant to encourage self-awareness and self-compassion. If your attention patterns or chronic boredom are genuinely interfering with your daily life, your relationships, or your ability to function, please seek guidance from a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist for a proper evaluation. There is real help available, and knowing your brain better is never a weakness. Keep your curiosity burning. Stop punishing yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.